What's going on? This is Cody, and you're listening to B-Boy 45, broadcasting from the Seacrest Studios here at Children's Hospital, Colorado. We have a very special edition of the latest news to keep you in the groove with Maya. On the phone, we've got Shirley Rumierk. Maya,
Hi
take it
there.
away. How are you?
Hi.
Doing great.
Go ahead, Maya.
Okay, so you played Vanessa, Lilette's mom on Rise, and
Yes.
and that was one of my favorite shows, and I think I was crying for a week when it was canceled.
No, that makes two of us.
um, what's your favorite or one of your favorite memories from filming?
Oh gosh. Well, actually, it was prior to even filming. It was our very first rehearsal for the very first episode, also known as the pilot episode. And in that rehearsal, we were all sitting in a room at NBC offices in New York, and we all were saying our lines out loud, and then it came to the point where it was the end of the first episode, and I remember all the kids got up because they had been in rehearsals to sing, and I'd never heard them before, and they just started to sing, and it was just crying right there. We didn't even start filming yet, and I got chills hearing their voices and the arrangement and how it was coming all together and how just incredible they sounded and really powerful. And at that moment, I really felt very fortunate to be part of such a special show.
Yeah, I rewatch Rise all the time, but I can never watch the last episode. So every time I finish the episode before the last one, I just go back to the first one and watch them all again.
Yes, it's really that the last episode is also a lot of the slow motion that happens there as everyone's getting ready backstage before the show is so heartbreaking. It's reflective also seeing that. I saw that last episode with my castmates, knowing that the show is not going to be renewed for a second season, so everything just had a much more profound meaning. Every line in that episode, that last episode, it meant so much more. But yeah, the greatest, one of the great memories is that very first rehearsal one when I heard the kids sing, and one of the great memories that I have is when Lilette and Vanessa, when Ali and I have a screaming match in our first episode. When we shot it, it was so intense to shoot that scene that afterwards we were done with that scene. We hug it out. We hugged. We hugged. And it was really nice. It's what we would do with other episodes too. We hug. We're just to get okay, we survived that scene. That was intense. Let's hug. That was always a wonderful energy about the show. That and most of my scenes with Ali, you were always in the kitchen, and there was always food involved. So it was a lot of...
Can't go wrong with food, can you?
No. I think in one episode, I don't know how there was donuts, and when you have food on set, you also need to have backup just in case, so you're doing a scene over and over and shooting a scene over and over. You need to have backup of food, but there were two humongous boxes of donuts hidden in one of my drawers hidden in one of the cupboards in the kitchen. I was like, this is so tempting. So great memories are hearing them sing and always hugging it out after an intense scene, and then just lots of food in my kitchen anytime we were during one of our scenes.
That's so cool. What was your favorite part about playing Vanessa?
Favorite part? Well, what I loved about playing Vanessa is how complicated of a character she was. She was a mom, but at the same time she was a young mom. So she was in this situation where she's trying to be a parent to her daughter, but then she's also meeting a friend, but, and so the situation was complicated. And I loved how Vanessa did the best that she could with what she had, which wasn't much. She didn't go to college, and so she just did the best that she could, and she always made decisions hoping for the best, and sometimes that's when she sometimes lead with her heart and not her mind. That's where she would get into trouble sometimes. But I just loved how fiercely loyal she was to her daughter, and how she made sacrifices at times when for her. And then I had a pretty rad fight scene that I kind of enjoyed. That was fun to do.
So you were in the movie Collateral Beauty with Will Smith. Do you have any fun stories from the set?
Well, I mean, it's not. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the film, but it's a heartbreaking film, but it's also uplifting at the same time. I absolutely love that, just being a part of that project and that film. But there was a scene that wasn't actually included in the film, but it's a scene where I actually see. I don't want to give it away, but I actually see my husband in that film. I'm in the hospital room, and it's a scene where I actually see him pass. And we had to shoot the scene, and the scene would end with me sobbing. The actor who played my husband was played by Michael Pena. He was wonderful. And, and so when you shoot a scene, you have to do it over and over and over and over and over and over and do it again and do it again. And I remember Michael Pena looked at me and goes, how do you do that crying? How can you cry like that, like over and over and over? And I said, I got a lot of hormones. I can do this.
One more time.
Exactly. So he was, he found it kind of funny, And I would joke around. I would say, well, do you want it on the tears on the left side or the right? I'm kidding. I don't have that kind of control. but so we would laugh, and it was helpful to laugh because we were doing a very intense, emotionally intense scene. So sometimes I remember when I was in acting classes that one of the things that my teachers told me was that the same muscles that you use for crying are the same muscles you use for laughing. So that's why sometimes when someone tells you a really awesome joke, you like laugh to tears. You're sobbing. It's the same kind of muscle
physical
that happens.
action.
So,
Sure.
Exactly. So it's very helpful in these scenes to have when we're doing very intense scenes to bring some kind of lightness to it, so we can get through it. But that was one of my best memories from Collateral Beauty.
Cool.
My favorite one. Mm-hmm.
Cool. So, you were in an episode of White Collar, and I love that show.
Yeah, pretty awesome show.
Yeah. Do you have any fun stories from working with the cast?
Well, I got to do an episode on White Collar where I was a high-end car sales rep, and into the dealership comes the actor Kim DeKay, who played Peter Burke, and I'm selling him a Ferrari, and I suggest to him that we go for a test drive. And me, Shirley, had never been in a Ferrari before, passenger seat, and it was awesome. Because we actually, it was just a scene where we just see the car pulling out of the driveway, out of the dealership for a test drive. But, then we had to actually shoot, us taking a test drive around in New York City. And I was like, I'm looking around in the car, I'm like, oh my God, this is like getting on a roller coaster. I'm buckled in like I'm on a roller coaster. And then I remember Tim hit the gas at one point, to zoom really fast to get back to the beginning point for us to shoot again that scene. And I just remember, like, I felt the skin going back on my face. Like, this really is a roller coaster. So I have to say that was an awesome experience on White Collar to go for a test drive in a Ferrari.
That is fun.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is there one project you've done that really stands out to you?
Yes. When I, a couple of years ago, I did an independent film called 1155. And it's an independent film that, for me, it meant a lot because we shot in a town called Newburgh, New York. And it's a town that is primarily under-resourced. And what I really enjoyed about that project, the story was wonderful. How a neighborhood confronts and deals, comes together and deals with violence, but what in a positive and uplifting way. But what I really loved about that film is that when they shot in that neighborhood, instead of just coming in and shooting the film and everyone then just leaves, when we shot the film there, we also made a point of employing people from Newburgh. So there were about 100 people that were production assistants that were from Newburgh. So the film became a part of the town, which is really wonderful. And that meant a lot to me, that a film is able to come and create community within the community that they're shooting. So that was a project that stands out to me that I remember, that meant a lot. And this is like apart from Rise, because Rise meant a lot to me. Rise was very special and meant a lot to me. But that film was the one that stands out.
Yeah, that's very unique. That's very cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you have any upcoming projects?
I just last week I shot just shot a day on another film called Centigrade. There's an actress named Genesis Rodriguez and her fiance Vincent Piazza. They're the leads in the film, and it's about a couple that gets trapped in a car in Norway there's like an avalanche on top of the car. But when they do flashback scenes, there's like interviews with family members, and so I play her sister, and Isabella Rossellini, another actress, plays our mom. And another actor, Ruben Blades, who's like well-known salsa singer from Latin America, but also well-known with For The Walking Dead, plays our dad. And another, a dear friend of mine, Florencia Lozano, plays our other sister, she was on Narcos. And that was a lot of fun to do. We had some good scenes where we're worried about her sister and or laughing because remembering about cool memories about her, and then we have other scenes where we're like sobbing. And I can stop. So
now, do you know when that movie's coming out?
That I don't know. We just finished shooting it, so they will be editing and hopefully some point next year. So I'll be posting about that Centigrade, that film. But it's really fantastic, and it's a great Genesis Rodriguez, the lead female. It's a great story too.
Yeah, and definitely probably for teenagers, young adults.
I would say teenagers. Yeah, I would say 15 and up.
Yeah.
Type film.
Perfect.
Yeah. Centigrade.
Centigrade. Cool. We'll keep our eyes open.
Cool. Yeah.
Great.
Who or what inspired you to start acting?
Well, when I was a kid, there was a children's theater program. There is a children's theater program still, but there was a children's theater program called the 52nd Street Project in New York that worked with inner city kids. And I went to that program after school, to just do something. There weren't any sports in my public school at the time or any theater. So I just went there. It was free. And I started writing plays and performing in them, and it was always with the understanding that it was as a hobby. not something to pursue as a career because pursuing a career as an actor, my mom was very worried, and that's not a career that's very consistent, and et cetera, et cetera. But then I spent all of my time there. When I wasn't in school, I was there. And then at some point, I was just filled with so much inspiration of collaborating with other kids in my neighborhood. And also they brought on what was unique about the program is that they brought a lot of television and film and theater professionals to come and work with us one-on-one. So from a very young age, I was exposed to people. And so I was seeing, working actors and making a living and expressing themselves. And so at some point in college, I realized economics was not for me. And I realized that I made a big decision. At some point, I realized that I didn't want to be 75 years old and look back with regret and say, wow, I wish I could have tried this. I wish I could have given acting a try. And so I gave myself a timeline after college. I said, well, I'm going to study what I need to study, figure out what skills I need to acquire to be the best that I can be, and work really hard and see what happens in 5 years. And within 5 years, I ended up doing a play on Broadway and becoming a full-time actor. And I haven't stopped since. And so that's sort of how that path happened. But it was really, the inspiration came from the seed was planted from this children's theater program, that it was just something to do for fun, that I ended up becoming very passionate about, because this theater community filled me with so much hope and so much confidence.
That's great.
Cool. Yeah. So what would be your dream show to guest star on?
Oh my God, dream show. So right now I am loving One Day at a Time on Netflix.
I love that show.
Me too.
I love that show. Oh my God, I laugh so much. So that would be like more like, like a fun, lighthearted one. And then on the not so happy side, Handmaid's Tale would be so like two very extreme, very different shows to do. But yeah, those two.
Cool. Is there someone you hope to work with in the future?
Gosh, I keep my options open. I'm a big fan of comedy and a big fan of drama. So there's so many people I love in both camps. So honestly, I just, it doesn't even have to be a name celebrity, because as long as it's an actor that's truthful and passionate about their work, I love working with them.
Cool. So what's your favorite show of all time?
Okay. So I like some of the oldies. When I was itty bitty, from the moment that I started to learn English, because my first language is Spanish, I was a huge fan of I Love Lucy. Just the comedy and Lucille Ball always trying to get in, like weasel her way in to whatever production that her husband is doing, whatever show he's doing. She's always trying to get in as a cast member. It's just like the best thing ever. And her comedic timing is genius, and her facial expressions it's just gold. And then the other show that I absolutely love is a show called Golden Girls.
Love that show.
Yeah, it's about these like retired, or retired, grandma women living down in Florida were just hysterical. And to me, I was like, they're just like teenagers. They're behaving like teenagers. It was It was fantastic, and they always had me in stitches. I was always laughing when I saw that show. But so if you haven't seen it, I suggest Golden Girls. It's really a fun show.
Maya, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, that's one of those are the two that I enjoy the most.
Yeah. Cool. So is there someone you've met that you've been completely starstruck by?
So as I mentioned in the children's theater program, I've gotten a chance to work with some well-known people. So, and in being in New York, you kind of, growing up in New York, you kind of run into celebrities every now and then, but it's like no big deal. But there was one, I went to a screening of a film a couple of years ago, and she wasn't even in the film. She was just there at the screening. I remember walking through the lobby and just like, oh my God. Eva Mendes, I saw her talking to someone, and she was so poised and so gorgeous. I was just like, oh my God, you totally look like your magazine pictures. So I was definitely, and then I don't know how it happened. My husband, now my boyfriend at the time, was also starstruck. So we were both like, Where we spoke to her, we were kind of speechless, and she was very gracious and lovely and wonderful and all that good stuff. So Eva Mendes.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what song are you currently listening to on repeat?
Phew, I got a list. There's thanks to Spotify, I can like run through them a lot. Usually anything by Dua Lipa. There's something I'm usually listening to her, or Camila Cabello, or the other J Balvin. I like a lot. I'm really enjoying. So there's not like any one particular song. It's more like artists that I'll like on playlist that I enjoy.
Cool. What song do you roll down the windows and rock out to?
This I just did this the other day. So I was like, oh wow, I literally did this the other day. I was in a car, and the driver that I have a song that I hadn't heard in years. I love it. It's a song by Notorious B.I.G. called Juicy.
Good song.
And it's a song that just reminds me of growing up in New York, because the song itself is very detailed in experiences about growing up in New York, referencing specific TV shows or magazines or songs or games that he used to play with friends that remind me of growing up in New York. So that's what I was rocking out to.
That's fun.
Yeah, cool. So do you have a favorite singer or band?
What song? Actually, I really, really love Florence and the Machine. They're pretty fantastic. And I actually was listening a lot to Florence and the Machine during Rise. For every episode, I put a playlist together to kind of get me in the mood, in the mindset, the mood of every episode. And Florence and the Machine kept coming up. But there's a rendition that they do of "Addicted to Love" that's really kind of rad, and it's pretty up. But that one I was listening to. It was like Florence and the Machine, and like anything from Adele is pretty much what I listened to when I was shooting Rise.
Right.
So, those two. But that's kind of a it's tricky to pick one favorite, because I like certain favorite ones depending on genre or style or language. So there's a rapper out of California, Snow the Product, who's also pretty great, who raps in Spanish and in English. She's on the Hamilton mixtape, Immigrants Get the Job Done, that she's pretty wonderful on. And yeah, she's also someone that I like to listen to a lot.
Did we lose you?
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Maya. What's your next question?
Cool.
Sorry, I think we cut out.
Yeah. So if you could have any song playing to announce your entrance into a room, what song would it be?
It would be, for now, because it changes, it would be J Balvin's Mi Gente, where he sings, he's basically talking about having a good time and enjoying things, but that would be the song that would announce. In particular, the intro to the song, Mi Gente, My People. It's like a fun song.
I think Maya has just a couple more questions.
Sure.
Cool. Do you have a motto or a quotation that you live by?
Absolutely. There is a motto, quote, or saying that my mom always used to tell me when I was a kid, and it's literally ingrained. And it's in Spanish, it's no hay mal que por bien no venga, which the equivalent in English would be every gray cloud has a silver lining. But for me, I almost like to translate it literally. I prefer it. There's no bad that brings with it some kind of good. And for me, it's like I just would just believe that model and follow that model. And so whenever hardship happen in my life, it's, it would be difficult, but at the same time, at some point, I would see that there was some blessing there in some way, somehow, from that experience. And looking back on it, I realized that it's like the eternal optimist. and it's been really wonderful. It's been this motto that my mom ingrained in me has been this wonderful gift for me throughout life.
Yeah,
but it's no hay mal que por bien no venga.
That's a good way to look at things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is, who do you consider to be a real life superhero and why?
My real life superhero is my mama. She is absolutely, without a doubt, a real life superhero. I always, what's really fantastic about superheroes is that you see them with these, incredible superpowers that they have, and then I just take a moment and realize that the incredible superpowers, like everyone's got incredible superpowers, I feel. But for me, growing up, the best superhero, mom, and she raised me by herself, very much like Vanessa did on Rise. She raised me by herself, and she did the absolute best that she could with the limited resources that she had at her disposal. And she's intensely fierce, intensely loyal, and I remember her, she was an incredible role model in terms of, I remember her going back to school at one point and, studying until, 5 a.m. And I would come out into the living room and I would see her like asleep in front of her books, on top of her books, studying and going to work and raising me at the same time. And I thought that was really fantastic. I didn't realize what the sacrifice was then, and now that I'm older, I can absolutely appreciate that. So to me, she's my superhero.
Sounds like a pretty amazing woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for calling in. I've been so excited to talk to you today.
Thank you.
I went to school and I was like, yeah, I get to talk to Shirley Rumierk from Rise today.
Oh, well, I'm so excited you reached out. Thank you for doing that. And absolutely, I'm more than happy to talk with you, and it's always great to talk to fans of the show. I sometimes run into fans walking around in New York, and it's really wonderful to have been part of something that affected people in such a wonderful and positive way. But absolutely, I was thrilled. I was feeling a little nervous to call in, but yes, very, very excited I did.
Well, you're only being listened to by 300 hospital rooms. That's it.
Ow! Still, it's an audience. I always get butterflies.
Well, thank you so much for
Yeah.
giving us some time and chatting with us. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for having me on the show and inviting me to chat with you guys for a bit. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day.
You too. Take care.
You too.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.